Yes, everybody, how are we? Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack and Sam here. Sam filling in, very familiar face by now for the David Harris, who is still unwell. Should be back by tomorrow if you are watching this on the day of Thursday. But we're going to be doing a pundit reaction here, and we're going to actually maybe give you guys something to pray for, something to be positive about. If you don't want to be positive, I don't necessarily blame you, but we're going to get started off with Clive Allen. Actually, had some interesting thoughts on the Europa League, and he was on TalkSport recently. He was being asked by Jeff Stelling about sort of maybe Ange's point of view now, with the Spurs season. And Jeff Stelling just asked him straight up, kind of cheeky of him. He said, "Do you think, from Ange's point of view, that Spurs have to win the Europa League now?" That was his question. And this is what Clive Allen had to say. He said, "Yeah, listen, Jeff, we all know the expectation at every club is that they want to win something every year. The most realistic competition is the Europa League. The opportunity is still there for what could be a big season. It's without a doubt Spurs' priority." Then he goes on to say, "We have the opportunity with experienced players coming back for the Europa League. The squad will be stronger and the depth will be there for Ange to draw upon." And I'll put that second quote up there for you. I mean, what do you make of that, Sam? That in a sense, with there only being now the Premier League and the Europa League to worry about, players should be coming back. Hopefully, not many players are going back towards the injury room. They're more returning from it. Do you think there's still a chance that Ange could save the season and maybe even save his own season and Spurs career? Do you agree with Clive?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that it doesn't even really fall on Ange whether he wins the Europa League. I think it falls on the players, to be honest, because from all that I understand, and I've had my criticisms of Ange, and maybe even what I'm going to say, I don't necessarily agree with in terms of his management style. But from what I understand about Ange's style, is that he basically has an ideology that he likes or that he employs when it comes to managing football teams, right? And that's, open front foot football, high press, and just kind of, yeah, as they say, gung ho football. That's kind of how I understand it, right? Whether that's the technical terms you want to use or not, that's up to you. But within that framework that he creates, it's my understanding that he gives the players basically free reign to interpret his style of play and to basically come up with ways to win football matches, which is why last season, in those last sort of 7 games, we ended up seeing players like Christian Romero basically playing striker, right? Because that's at the time what he felt was best for us. And look, you can agree or not that a centre back should or shouldn't be playing striker, but he ended up scoring goals, especially that important one against Arsenal, which ended up obviously coming to nothing. But he got us potentially back in the game. So for me, to relate it back to your question, I think that it's on these players coming back to basically say, all right, this crap's gone on for too long now. We're here, we're top players. The likes of Christian Romero is a World Cup winner, right? The likes of Bentancur and Kulusevski, they've won many league titles in their time. Coming from clubs that have winning mentalities, and it's time for these players to really put their foot down and lead the rest of the players to, success. And you can have your criticisms of Son, whether you think he's captain material or not, but it's up to Sonny as well to, kind of right the wrongs of this season, because we've not seen the Son of old or the Son that we're accustomed to, and that Villa game, unfortunately, kind of, I think, showed a lot of the problems we've seen with Son over the last 18 months or so. Maybe 18 months is a bit of a stretch. I'd say at least the last, 6 to 7 months, towards the end of last season and this season. Where I do think it falls on Ange
Do you think Ange
is
can
his
save, to
man.
the question though, do you think Ange can save his season basically by, pushing on in the Europa League? Like, is it from his point of view, does he have to win the Europa League in order to save his own time at Spurs and maybe even just save the season in general for Spurs fans?
It's kind of a tough question, Jack, because I would have expected Ange to have been sacked a long time ago, right? So to me, it kind of seems like logic is going out of the window when it comes to why Ange is still in the job.
Mhm.
Um, so, I could say to you, if he doesn't win the Europa League, I think they sack him at the end of the season. But with what they've shown us recently, I don't necessarily believe that that is the be all and end all of Ange.
Mm.
If he can start to turn the form around in the league, the players continue to buy into him, which I'm not 100% sure he's got the whole squad on board personally, which I think is why you've seen the likes of the Villa and Liverpool games recently, semi-finals and knockout games. That's where you need the big characters to lead the team, as I said. But if they aren't willing to, take the reins, then the whole project can easily fall apart. But
Mhm.
I do think personally, if he doesn't win the Europa League, then that is the end of him, and they'll be looking elsewhere to try and
Yeah.
steady the ship, as it were.
I think if he had won, maybe it's hard to say, like, because I think Ange is already maybe starting to slip into like Ten Hag kind of sort of status where winning a trophy in a sense maybe does cover up, some sort of, kind of ugly blemishes along his time here, right? Ten Hag had the same thing, and that actually kept him in the job when he had won the trophies, and that was the reasoning was like, oh, well, he won these trophies, despite, everything else on the outside looking actually a little bit mixed and a bit gray in terms of whether things were actually going to be better in the long run. And with Ange, I don't know. Like, I think winning a Europa League, like, I don't think you do that out of just luck or, out of sheer coincidence or something like that. I think there clearly would have to be still some sort of team ethos, still players fighting for him, still players pushing, to try to win every game. I think tactically in a tournament like that, you still need to be pretty astute and you still need to be on your game. And the players as well need to know what they're doing. And so I think with Ange, like winning a Europa League, for me at least, maybe as a happy clapper myself, I think that would probably cover up a lot of the blemishes from this season, if not in a way kind of save, I think everything that maybe has gone wrong. I think that would be a big kahuna of a trophy for him to be able to win. It'd be the biggest trophy you've won in decades at the end of the day. So I think it probably would, you know, sort of a way paste over whatever it is, polish over a lot of maybe ugly moments from this season, whether you think that those have been his fault or not, right? The ugly moments from this season. But the Europa League is really the only thing that is salvageable, that is left. And I think, we'll see from these performances in that, whether we are, capable of going to a final. I'm not too sure, like, if I have the same sort of confidence levels as Clive Allen does when it comes to just, getting players back. Then all of a sudden, now we can push for it. I think it will be a huge boost to us. But the way I see it, Sam, is this team right now, my biggest worry is they don't really look like they know what they're doing anymore, both in possession and out of possession. So it doesn't really matter if you get players back. Maybe they might come with a fresh enthusiasm, fresh sort of hunger or something, but you can huff and puff all you want. You'll still eventually come up against a good enough team that knows what they're doing and knows what they're trying to do on the pitch. And they'll beat you at the end of the day, no matter how much you're trying, no matter how much you're running, no matter how much you believe in the manager, right? You'll still end it up being beaten by a better team that's more well drilled, that knows what they're doing. And eventually we'll run into a team like that in the Europa League, if not already, in March, if we get knocked up against a Galatasaray or a Real Sociedad, there's every chance that we could get knocked out quite early. But from a happy clapper's point of view, Sam, I know sometimes I ask you to sort of channel that inside of you for, these type of videos. Do you kind of see Clive Allen's point, though, that in a way, players coming back, the squad will be in a way a lot deeper. He only really has that competition to prioritize because the Premier League is, in my opinion, not that salvageable. Ange will probably pretend that it is, but we all know that for the most part isn't. I think the highest we could go is eighth or ninth, maybe at this point, but we would really have to start going on a real win streak. I mean, with all the players he has, Romero hopefully coming back sometime soon. We're not sure about Van de Ven, but Jed Spence, now in the squad, Matisse Tell, new signings. Is there a chance Spurs could actually make a final? Do you have confidence they could, basically?
I'll try
Are
and
you on
channel
Clive Allen's
my.
happy clapper train?
I'll try and channel it, because maybe over the last decade of my life, I've had it sucked out of me by the inner workings of the club. I think that one of the most important things for Ange going forward will be, as you say, getting these players back, but not because you've got the options necessarily because you've got the options to draw upon, but because I think when you look at the likes of Bergvall when he first came into the team like a month or 2 months ago, and the likes of Jed Spence getting their runs, I think that you're seeing a sort of juxtaposition of players like Pedro Porro, for example, players like Son, who are just so tired, and it's so obvious that they're so tired. And I don't want to sort of use tiredness as an excuse because I think that a vast majority of the team has been underwhelmingly woeful, right? Um,
Before they
and
got
again,
tired.
like
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I mean, you look at the games like Aston Villa, right, on the weekend, and in the first minute, like you say, it's like the players don't know what they're supposed to be doing. You've got Pedro Porro, who's playing as our furthest forward player. They play one pass down the line,
Looks more out of
and
position than ever, in any of the games, really,
yeah,
Pedro Porro.
and
Yeah,
I've seen people on online sort of getting a Bentancur for being in the right wing position, but it's like, where else do you want the guy to be? He's clearly seen that we've got players out of position,
yep.
and he's trying to cover. That's
He's
obviously going to
defending like an
make gaps
ocean of
elsewhere.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that when you see the likes of Destiny come back, the two centre backs, hopefully, because I mean Romero might not even
Mhm.
be at the club anymore. We don't know where he is. Um, but Solanke will obviously be huge for us. But just players who have the ability to run. I mean, obviously he's going to have to really manage their minutes, and we might not see an
But
immediate
he can now
upturn.
with the Europa League. That's kind of the point, right? Because the
Yeah,
Premier
yeah,
League, it's only gonna be
definitely. But
he'll have only occasionally, like the 2 game a week thing won't become nearly as strenuous as it used to be for him, right? And so then if he's a good enough manager, he should be able to squad manage, minutes and be able to then put out Europa League teams that are fit and confident and willing to play his version of his football, which we know comes with so much intensity.
yeah, definitely. But I think that the ability to rotate will allow him to will allow the players to actually play, quote unquote Ange ball better
Mhm.
because they'll have the ability to do the constant running that is required. And if they don't, then he'll be able to sub them off. But I think that the freshness of the likes of Jed Spence is maybe why, not to say that I'm not loving everything that Jed Spence is doing at the moment. Um, Even his fashion at the moment is killing it. But his athleticism and his reading of the game at the moment just seems to be, a level or even two levels above the rest of the squad. And consistently, because it's not like everyone's playing terrible every game. I know the last two games are probably the worst two games we've seen maybe since the Coventry game.
Mhm.
Um, or there's been a
Yeah.
few this season. But I just think you're seeing Spencer's ability to just kind of do everything that he's being asked to do, and if he can manage the minutes of Destiny correctly, I think that being able to rest Porro will be a big difference in our squad. And I'm liking I like what I'm seeing from Danso so far. He maybe looks a little bit nervous on the ball, but you're gonna be when you're playing such a demanding style of play.
And
But I've
coming into
been
a team that's out of form, I think isn't easy as well.
exactly. I mean, look,
And
the
with the new
first two
players
games he's
coming
played
back
is
that he can pick with the new players coming back from he can pick from, he can finally rotate guys that maybe haven't been in form, like a Pedro Porro to an extent, who we just found out as well, right? He's been playing more minutes than any other fullback, I think, in football at the moment, right? So we have to have some sympathy for these guys that in a way have been played into the ground and, probably deserve a break, at this stage, from football in general, have them take a trip to Paris or whatever, kind of floats their boat really. But a lot of these guys need a break. And I kind of am sort of on Clive Allen's page here. I could see where he's coming from that, like, we have a whole month even to kind of rest these players. That's what he also said. Our next game for the Europa League is in March. So we have a long period here to just sort of see if we can pick up some points in the Premier League, but in a way, kind of just kick up, relax, for a second here and see if we can just sort of take our minds away from the stress of it all and maybe just end up being a whole new team in the Europa League. That's the hope. If you're looking for any, there you are, everybody. I provided it for you, all you lovely happy clappers. But I think we'll leave it there, Sam. Thank you very much. Maybe a few more of these to record after this. So everybody check those out as well. And we'll also, I think I'll be releasing this one today. So if you are around, everybody, we'll be watching Harry Kane taking on Celtic on the Big Up platform. So feel free to join us for that. Come hang out, come chat, come watch the game, come chat about life, talk about food, talk about whatever's going on in your minds. And we'll see you all there later. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.